I'm Mother Mary. I talk about the state of justice in this country. Today we're covering an ongoing saga with a grand jury investigation in Alaska that was buried by the government. I'm going to tell you the story. Alaska is facing a constitutional crisis that most people haven't even heard of. It's a story involving a tased bush pilot, a retired judge indicted for perjury, and a high-stakes battle between the Alaska Supreme Court and the people. At the heart of this conflict is a single sentence in the Alaskan Constitution. Quote, "The power of grand juries to investigate shall never be suspended." But between 2021 and 2023, many Alaskans believe that is exactly what happened. Today, we're looking at the explosive timeline of how the state's judicial system allegedly moved to shut down a citizen-led investigation into its own corruption. Our story centers on David Haeg, a person I know personally. He's a man who has spent nearly 20 years alleging that his 2004 hunting conviction was the result of a corrupt conspiracy between a judge and a state trooper. For years, the system ignored him, but in 2021 and early 2022, something changed. Haeg had a group of activists began organizing massive protests outside the Kenai courthouse. They weren't just shouting, they were educating the public on an ancient power, the right of any citizen to request a grand jury to investigate government misconduct. By May of 2022, the pressure worked. Alaska's Attorney General Traig Taylor agreed to let a grand jury in Kenai hear Haeg's evidence. For the first time in decades, the shield of the people was being unsheathed to look at the judiciary itself. The Kenai Grand Jury didn't just listen, they acted. They began subpoenaing high-ranking officials, including Marla Greenstein, the woman who had been the only investigator of Alaskan judges, all of them for 30 years. But as the grand jury closed in, the Alaska Supreme Court made a move that shocked legal observers. In November of 2022, the Supreme Court issued Supreme Court Order 1993. This order essentially changed the rules of the game while the game was still being played. It claimed that citizens couldn't go directly to a grand jury. Instead, they had to go through the Department of Law, the very people that they are trying to investigate. According to the article, internal memos revealed the Supreme Court may have even bypassed their own 13-member Rules Committee to push this through. To the protesters, this was a silent coup, a direct attempt to strip the grand jury of its independent power to investigate judges. Despite the new rules, the Kenai Grand Jury managed to strike one final blow. In May 2023, they indicted retired Judge Margaret Murphy on a felony charge of perjury. This was historic. It was the first time in Alaska's history that a grand jury, pushed by citizen advocacy, had indicted a judge for conduct related to a corruption cover-up. This was historic. It was the first time in Alaska's history that a grand jury, pushed by citizen advocacy, had indicted a judge for conduct related to a corruption cover-up. But the victory was short-lived. Throughout 2023, the judicial system fought back. They argued the indictment was procedurally flawed. They claimed that the grand jury had been tainted by David Haeg's evidence. By early 2024, a judge would eventually toss the indictment entirely, citing a lack of a quorum and, quote, inaccurate instructions. To the state, this was about following, quote, proper procedure. But to the activists, it was a masterclass in how a system protects its own by using red tape to suspend the power of the people. So where does that leave us? The Alaska court system maintains that these new rules actually create a formal process for citizens. But critics, and the article we're looking at today, argue the opposite, that the system has successfully gatekept the grand jury, ensuring that no investigation into judicial corruption can ever happen without the judiciary's permission. The Constitution says this power shall never be suspended. After the events of 2021 to 2023, the question for Alaskans is, has that promise been broken? If you'd like to see the documents and the full timeline for yourself, the link to the Alaska State of Corruption article is in the description box below. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like this content. I will be creating more in coming days.